By the way, you were wrong.
On what?
And by the way, I appreciate and respect this man's, mind, but you were wrong and I was right back in 2020.
On what?
Okay, so
in this episode, we're going to dive into Carlos's story and learn how he went from a poor immigrant coming across the border at 5 or 6 years old to running multiple 7-figure businesses. We're going to talk about some of the things in the news that impact real estate. For example, the Realtor.com scandal. Apparently half of the leads Realtor.com is selling are 100% fake. Not only that, the real leads are being sold over and over and over again. So we're going to talk about that lawsuit, that whole scandal that is all over the news right now. #1 story on inmen.com. We're going to talk about the new proposed $25,000 first home buyer credit, how that's going to impact real estate markets if it did go through. What are the pros? What are the cons? And is there a better solution to providing more affordable housing for America? And we're going to talk about unrealized gains. What would the impact of unrealized capital gains taxes coming to America? Europe already has it. Canada has it. If it comes to America, what is the impact of that for real estate markets? And I'll give you a spoiler alert. It'll completely decimate them. We might as well all go home and pack up our bags. Guys, if you like this and you want to learn how to build a real estate empire like Zachary Keeps, our co-host here with over 300 properties in his portfolio, check out our Fliplift course with Zachary Keeps. You can join it at fliplift.investorlift.com. This was a course that used to sell for $8,000. We're now bringing it back at just $98 a month. It's absolutely incredible. I think it's the best course out there. So check that out. Without further ado, let's dive in. Happy birthday, everywhere.
Appreciate it.
Happy birthday. Turning,
21?
61, 62?
I'm out of here. Good to see y'all. 61,
21,
62.
21, 22?
Nah, age is just a number.
Age
This is
is
what
just
I
a
like to
number.
start. This is so funny. We're sitting here talking casually before the podcast. Carlos says, what is 11 out of 10 anyways? What, Rob, tee that up.
Okay, so this is, it was a painful lesson that I learned over the last decade. So schools brainwash us to thinking 90% is good enough, right? When you're in high school and you take a math test and you get 90% of the answers right, teacher's like, hey, good job, Carlos, you got an A. You go home, Mom, Dad, look, I got an A. So we're conditioned to think that, 90%, 9 out of 10 is good enough. Then when you go out in business, if you go 9 out of 10 on your business, there's going to be someone else that's going 10 out of 10. The market doesn't care. The market's not your maths high school teacher. They're not your parents. The market wants the best. So the guys that go 10 out of 10, if you're going 9 out of 10, you're competing against someone that's going 10 out of 10, you lose every single time. So most guys, when they start their first business, they go 9 out of 10 and they're broke. They're out of money within 2-3 years max. This happened to me. My first business, I was just going 9 out of 10 and you get kicked in the teeth and you learn your lesson. And then you come back. Then what you do is the smart guys realize this. And then they look at what are the 10 out of 10 businesses doing? What are the best companies in the world doing? And they come back and then they go 10 out of 10. And then if you do that on anything for long enough, you'll eventually become successful. You become a millionaire within a few years. Okay. But then there's another level above that, right? If you look at the greatest entrepreneurs in history, you got guys like Elon Musk is a prime example of this. Steve Jobs, prime example of this. Jeff Bezos. They don't stop at 10 out of 10. What they do is they don't try to just do what the best companies in the world are doing. They try to find something that is so much better, a whole nother gear, that 11th gear, to do something truly revolutionary, something that no one else has ever done before. And when you find that extra gear and you go from 10 to 11, you're not just as good as the best companies in the world. You are the best company in the world. You have no competition. And the market comes to you. So that's what this podcast is all about, is showcasing entrepreneurs that go and find that 11th gear.
I have an objection.
Go ahead.
Give me your objection. Let me hear what your thoughts are.
Okay. So I pride myself in being an operator, right? I'm an operator. I've been building businesses since I can recall, like building businesses for someone else for over a decade, and then building our own business now 11 years, right? Yeah. And I actually always say that in business, you're never going to be 100% operationally.
Yeah.
Never. Yeah. Amazon, Google, the biggest companies in the world are not, they're not 10 out of 10. They're not 100% operationally. When you get to, in my opinion, if you're at 85, like Investorlift, right?
Yeah.
If you're operationally at 85 out of 100, you're doing better than most. If you're at 90 out of 100, that's probably going to be where that's your ideal point, in my opinion. Why? Because then you're still giving yourself room for constant improvement, right? And the only thing certain in business is what? Change.
Yeah.
Innovation, right? You're gonna develop internal leaders and employees, and you're going to externally hire people, and you're going to improve your systems and your processes. So, right? I guess just my perspective, I understand the point that you're making, but my perspective in business is I'm always thinking operationally, right?
Yeah.
Now, I've never met somebody operationally that's 11 out of 10, but I do understand the point and the concept that you're making.
I think, are you talking about striving?
You never hit it.
Striving.
You never hit it.
You're
but
pushing
you
for that, right?
It.
Nothing's ever perfect. None of us are perfect. We're all imperfect. Yeah. We're imperfectly perfect. However, strive, going for that extra gear.
I love it.
Have you ever read 0 to 1 by Peter Thiel?
No.
I'm going to buy you that book. One of the greatest business books I've ever read. It's where I started figuring this out. His whole thesis in the book is, if you want to make money in business, you got to be a monopoly. And if you want to become a monopoly, what you got to do is do stuff completely different, and then build moats around yourself to protect yourself and like solidify that position. Yeah. So really good book, by the way. Check it out. We'll drop a link to it down below. 0 to 1 by Peter Thiel. Recommend any entrepreneur to read that book.
Speaking of books, when's your book coming out? I know it's got to be in the works.
You have a book out.
You have a book out?
No, that was a real estate wholesaling book.
Wholesale.
Yeah, it was called Wholesaling Bible, correct?
No, it's called The Best Wholesaling Book Ever.
Yeah.
You want me to tell you why I named it that?
That was the first time we ever met. When you launched that book, I had you on my old podcast years ago. That was like 5 years ago?
That was 2019.
2019. Yeah. And that's when we met, was actually when you launched that book.
So you guys want to know why I called it The Best Wholesaling Book Ever?
Because you wrote it.
No, it wasn't an ego play or nothing like that, because I read every single wholesaling book. And what I did, anytime that I'm going to do anything, right, it's like, what do they say? A good artist copies, a great artist steals, right?
Yeah.
So I'm like, okay, if I'm going to write a wholesaling book, then I'm going to read every single wholesaling book, at least the top ones, right? And if I pull out my my freaking what do you call it? My Kindle, right? You'll have there's like 20 plus wholesaling books that I read, right? Like If You Can't Wholesale After This, and all these different books that everybody wrote. And I just constantly was just writing down what I believe those books were missing.
Yeah.
What they were great in, and then what they were missing. Oh, most of these books are missing more visuals. Okay. Right. Wow, most of these books are missing intricate strategies, right? So then I took all of that, and then I wrote the best wholesaling book ever.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Oh man, this book goes heavy on marketing, but not on acquisitions.
Yeah.
Wow, this book goes heavy on acquisitions, right? But it doesn't tell you how to actually build a business, et cetera, right? So then that's why I didn't want to miss these key points that are going to be useful at some point. And KPIs, most of those books were missing KPIs. A lot of those books were missing, like real up-to-date maximum allowed, and formulas or after repair values, you know what I mean? So,
and they get dated too, right? Like,
what was that?
A lot of them were written like,
it's very, they're very vague, and they're very
I still
outdated.
think all the principles still apply today.
That's the
fundamentals.
The marketing changes, the tech changes.
80% of, I would say 80% now that even in today's market, the market has changed again.
Yeah, of course.
Right?
Always evolving.
Can I give you two examples of how the market has changed? Like when I came into it, and I'm speaking as a, on the real estate acquisition side, right? You're heavy on the rental side, right?
But also on the acquisition side.
Acquisitions to get the rentals. I get it, right?
Acquisitions, as Zack likes to call them.
So when I came into the game back in 13, a lot of people were running, an MAO formula, maximum allowed offer formula. Yeah. The old kind of Sean Terry formula, right? Which is like after repair value, take away 70%, remember, like, or times 0.70, take away what you want to make, take away rehab. It was like this kind of formula that really gave you a really low maximum allowed offer, right? And then I'm like, no, I don't think that really works, right? And I'm like, why don't we do after repair value, take away agency fees and closing costs, which was 7%, so 0.93, or take away 7%, however you want to calculate that, right? 0.93, right? Take away what an investor wants to make, like let's just say 10%, right? Yeah. Right? Okay, if it's ARV 350, then an investor wants to make $35,000. Okay, so let's take away the $35,000. Okay, the property needs $40,000 in repairs. Let's take away the $40,000 in repairs, and then let's also take away your wholesale fee or whatever, your finder's fee, right? So let's just take away another $20,000, right? So I got a little more intricate, you know what I mean? Yeah. And by the way, that cash offer in today's market is also out the window.
Yeah. We're here in Dallas, Texas with Orion. Yes, Orion's been on, how long have you been on Investorlift for?
1 year, September 26th is the renewal. Investorlift, absolutely 100%. Paid for this money back in like the first month. You got like access to all these buyers, click one button, you get sent out to massive amounts of buyers. The leads come in. And then what's cool is that we have a CRM that's kind of connected to Investorlift, whereas when they text message you or they call you, it automatically get added to your buyers list. So within 1 year of being with Investorlift, we've already added 55,000 buyers to our contact list, which is a good deal, my friend.
Now, what a lot of the big dogs are doing, anybody that's making hundreds of thousands of dollars per month, they're heavy novation. They're heavy on novation.
Just to maximize their yield. Because that formula that you just said to me would still work today. It applies to what I'm buying.
It would, as a cash offer.
As a cash offer,
It would work as a cash offer.
You're just saying if the deal flow's not there to maximize them, their strategy on the disposition side has changed to not sell to somebody like me that's going to digest the deal, but rather maximize that because they have the opportunity with new strategy.
Respectfully, right? Like, why would I want to sell to someone like you when I can put the property on the MLS 100%. And then there's 1,000 of you that are going to take a look at it?
I don't disagree. It's not even me you're selling to, and those people, they're not appealing to me. They're appealing to an end user that wants that discount and has the opportunity.
I will say this, right? Because as a friend, it's funny. The first thing I thought of was Robert. I was like, wait a minute. I'm like, if people can put their property on the MLS, they're going to choose that 9 out of 10 times over selling to an investor on Investorlift or selling to a hedge fund whenever they come back and they want to buy. But hold on, here you go.
I
Ready?
thought about it. Yeah.
It doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter.
Let me tell you why. Most people are not operationally sound, and they're never going to be. The amount of paperwork and the amount of logistics and the amount of communication and the amount of compliance and
It's true. And disclosure.
It doesn't scale. It skews your cash conversion cycle.
But also the major factor, which is the utility of the people that contacted you in the first place. Time is so critical. A lot of times they don't have the time and the patience to do that. I need the money yesterday.
Not only that, right there, like you said, right, the cash flow cycle, they can't wait 60 to 90 days for their cash to come in, especially wholesalers.
Right.
Yeah.
Paycheck to paycheck.
Wholesalers is like, they sell a property, they go buy a watch.
Yeah.
Right? They sell a property, they're like, I'm going to go buy a Lamborghini. Let's be honest.
You were bad influence on those people back in the day.
Back in 2018,
back in the day, I want to talk about that.
I was the first wholesaler with the Rolls Royce Wraith.
Right. Yeah, you created the.
I was
the real estate guru.
I was.
Pack.
I brought a different vibe to the industry. Yeah. Right? Because before me, take a look at like the successful wholesaler avatars, right? It was like the Sean Terrys, right? And the Jerry Nortons or the Joe McCalls, right? Yeah. The good old boys club, in my opinion, right? Yeah. Which I love those dudes. They're great human beings, but they weren't coming in and like iced out, 300 gram chains and freaking iced out watches and Rolls Royces. Right? So I brought that new energy to the mix, and now you got a bunch of, the avatars out there now that haven't outgrown that, right? I praise God. You know, I went through a whole spiritual journey to actually to overcome my own pride and ego. It took me years of deep work and shadow work and hiring, you know, personal development mentors and spiritual coaches to get through that, because I'll tell you what, I would say 9 out of 10 people in general never overcome that status phase of their life. Yeah. Come on now, you guys have been in the game long enough. Yeah. The same people from back then when the same people that came behind me with the flash and all that, they're still doing it 5 years later.
Mm-hmm. It doesn't work anymore. It did work a few years ago for blowing up brands. Like if you want to blow up your brand,
it's kind of comical. It's comical at this point.
You get Jack,
let's get into this. I mean, I love this. So I remember
Rolls Royce, and there's your Instagram.
You probably thought I was a douchebag before you and I made
Zack over here.
Bro, before you and I made eye contact, before you and I made eye contact and spiritually, you know, screwed each other. We spiritually had intercourse, right? You were probably like, man, this dude's pretty down to earth guy. He's not a douchebag.
No. Correct. I didn't, you know, if I'm just, we're all judge, right? At the end of the day, you see the social media. I'm just the guy that I don't like when people, it's cool to have material things. That's great. And have the greatest cars and houses.
I've been to Luigi when I was in my stunting phase.
But don't flaunt it. I don't like when people flaunt it. To me, it just seems artificial. But then I want to say this. I'm all about connection. I'm all about relationships. Do what you want to do. When you came over to my house with Sal and Alex, I believe it was the three. It was just you and the three. You came to my house.
We sat down. Your elevator upstairs, Mr. Don't Flaunt It.
We smoked a. I don't post that.
You had your infinity pool overseeing the mountains, Mr. Don't Flaunt It. I'm about to expose you right now.
But we connected, and then I said, forget about all that shit. And then people say, what do you think of those guys? I said, I really like them because I got to know you from the soul, from the inside out,
this
not
was like
from
4
the
or 5
external.
Years ago,
yeah, even more. So let's talk about your journey from before getting into the business. Now you have multiple businesses, speaking on stages, doing all these things. Let's catch us up from why'd you choose this avenue with Sal originally and Alex to the person you were before to now you've transcended into a completely different person, huge family guy, loving, a doting father to your two beautiful girls and your wife. And you're just a completely different person.
I grew up, right? I spiritually and mentally matured. Right. I did. I'm telling you, bro, I have intentionally have done the internal work that most people will not do. Mm-hmm. Most people, they say that they stop growing after 35. Like wherever you are at 35, that's kind of where you stay stuck. And you see it right now. Yeah. I'm like, why is that 40-year-old with a gray beard trying to stunt on 21 and 25-year-olds? Why don't you just, you know what the greatest form of influence is? To just be an example, like to be a good example. It's true. At that point, you don't have to, I remember back then, you're right. It was, by default, and here's the difference. Okay. I grew up with nothing, right? And we'll get into my story. I grew up on dirt floors and dirt roads in Mexico, right? And then when I got here, I grew up in the shittiest, lowest urban neighborhoods that you can think of. I grew up on 9th Street in Van Buren, right? East Side 9th Street and Garfield Gang and all, WBP. By the way, I know you're new to the state. WBP stands for Wetback Power.
What does it stand for?
Wetback Power. It's a gang, right? It's a gang. See, some of these folks are laughing. Exactly, right? So I grew up within a mile radius. I had like 5 gangs around me. Wow. You know what I mean? Right? But I always stayed out of trouble. I always stayed out of trouble. Thank God.
How did you stay out of? How did you avoid the influential people around you?
You know what, bro? Honestly, first of all, I'm the oldest in my family. So I kind of had to play the father figure at a very early age, right? My mother, my mother was working 2-3 jobs. She did not get the opportunity to raise us. And one thing that really helped me stay out of trouble, one, was my faith, right? My faith in my obedience to God. And number 2, because even if nobody was watching, if I did something, like even as a little boy, like if I did something that I knew was wrong, that was who I was held accountable to. Sure. Ever since I was a little boy, right?
And who instilled that in you? Clearly your parents.
Well, not my parents because my father wasn't around, but my mother comes from a very heavy Christian background family, right? So I got pictures of myself at 5 years old in the church already, right? So yeah, that was heavily programmed on me. But the second thing that really helped me out was I would hang out from 5 p.m. to around 10 p.m. every single day at a park called Verde Park on 9th Street in Van Buren. And we would play basketball and we would play volleyball. That's how I met my wife. We would play softball, right? We would play soccer. I did that for years and years and years. So sports also helped me. It taught me a lot in life, right?
Yeah.
I met my wife at the age of 17 when I was playing for Verde Park. It was called the City of Phoenix Parks and Recreation. We had a softball team, and she was like, that girl, she was a 4-year letterman, all state, third baseman, 5A Metro region, freaking, she had a scholarship to go play softball at LSU.
Wow.
Right. So she was
Did she
really,
go to
she was legit.
LSU?
No, she actually didn't go to LSU, and she blames me.
You're
She
too
blames
attractive.
me. But so she lived with a lot of regret.
Well, at least your
Right.
kids have 50% athletic genes now.
From both. Okay, got it.
Just kidding.
But watch this. Ready? Here, here's another lesson that people need to learn about regret. Right? So her and I are sitting in the backyard a few years ago, and she said, "Hey, babe, one of my biggest regrets in life was not going to LSU and playing softball. I feel like I let my father down." Because my father, that dude worked 2 jobs to put me in club ball. That dude was at every practice from the ages of like 7 all the way to, 17, 18. He was there pushing me as a softball player. And I feel like I let him down. And that really touched me. And I said, babe, I understand. And I know, that you've told me this now on like a handful of different occasions, right? I said, but babe, I said, I just want you to take a look at where we are right now and what we have right now. Our beautiful children, our beautiful marriage.
Yeah.
We help take care of everyone, right? I said, so everything that you did and everything that you didn't do led us to this very
point.
moment right now.
Yeah.
Right.
And after that moment, brother, she hasn't talked about living with regret.
But also, let me just interject. Couldn't she also pivot even today and be like a softball coach or coach your girls if they're interested? There's things she could do to still, glorify
right
her
now,
socialization.
Brother, I know you don't have children, and I know you don't have children, right?
I got one.
He's got-
and one on the way.
Oh, yes. Hello. Right. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I'll tell you this. As a mother, being a mother is a full-time job.
For sure.
Being a mother is a full-time job, and there's nothing that us men or fathers can do about it. Like, they're naturally, right, instinctively going to like be mothers all day long, from the time they wake up to the time they go to bed. Right. So right now, her full-time job is to take care of our kids. And you'll appreciate this. My 6-year-old, she goes to Charlie Kirk School up in, Dream City. Right. So she goes to a private Christian school, well, guess who found that school? She did. You know what I mean? Right. Yeah. And we help each other out. I take my daughters to their 2 different schools, and then she picks them up, but she's always on call. This morning she was volunteering at the school. You know what I mean? Like, it's a full-time job being a mother. So I think right now that is what brings a lot of fulfillment. And you know what else makes her really happy? Seeing me step up as a dad.
Yeah.
Like, that actually kind of turns her on, to be honest with you. I thought I wasn't going to get none last night. But guess what happened? We had to fire someone, right? And I'm usually never involved in the firings anymore. HR does it. We have an HR department that does all the hiring and all the firing. But with this specific situation, I was needed to be in the room as a mediator, because I'm like the voice of reason, I'm like neutral. And I was a part of that. So my 6-year-old's cheer practice started at 6, and I left the office at 5:15 to try to get there, but there was an accident. I was running late, but I still made it, even though I was late. Even though my wife said, "Don't worry about it, babe. I understand." Right? Go home. I didn't say anything. I actually snuck up. I snuck up behind my wife and tapped her on the shoulder as she's sitting on the lawn chair on the grass. And she was just so happy, like her eyes lit. Well, that yesterday night, she compensated me for it. And I was like, what's going on? She says, babe, it just turns me on when you step up as a dad. So note for all the husbands out there and the fathers, right? Step up as a father, step up as a husband, and your romantic life will improve by default.
Love it.
And that's the end of the podcast. Good to see everybody.
What was it, Phil? Dr. Phil 101 today.
Dr.
you
Phil
go.
101. I love it. All right. So you grew up here. You didn't get. Can you share a little bit of your story about how you got here? Because you came here as an immigrant. How old were you?
The first time that my mom brought us over.
Yeah.
Right. So I'm gonna keep this under 5 minutes. And by the way, it's funny, you guys, I'm jumping around everywhere, but I'm jumping around everywhere because I feel like you guys are making some pretty valid points. What I was trying to say with that situation about the flaunting and stuff like that in the marketing aspect, for me, because I grew up with nothing, I didn't do it as a marketing strategy. Yeah. I did it because I wanted to have all those things, right? I did it because I could, and I've always wanted to, right? It's just the programming that you kind of grew up with, you know what I mean? So that's why I did it. And what's funny is, again, organically, it became a marketing tool.
Yeah.
The flash, the jets and the Rolls Royces and all that. It naturally became a marketing tool, and we started to attract a lot of the wrong crowd, but there was some good crowd that we attracted with it. Remember, you attract what and who you are. So at that moment, I was attracting the bling blingers and all the underdogs that were trying to make it to buy a Lamborghini or a chain or whatever. So it goes now circling back to my story, which is when my father left us, I was probably around maybe 2 or 3 years old, and he didn't really leave us. My mom left him because he was very abusive. So I grew up. I was born in the capital city of Sonora called Hermosillo. I was born there, and when my mom decided to stop the abuse, you know how difficult it is for a woman with 2 kids to walk away from a man, especially when she had no job. Like, he was the sole provider, but he would abuse her, physically abuse her. So at some point she said, I'm done, right? And I'll tell you the incident that did it according to her, right? Because I don't really remember because I was too small. But she said he came home one day drunk and coked out of his mind, and he started looking around under the bed. Where is he? Where is he? I know you're cheating on me. Right. And she was just like, what the hell are you talking about? But when you're in that state and you're living that type of life and you're probably doing some bad things, right? You naturally think that other person is doing it back to you, right? So because projection, So then he literally puts us against a wall, my mom and myself, not my little brother, my mom and myself, and starts shooting around us, thinking that it was some kind of game or whatever. That same week is when my mom said, as soon as he leaves, I'm taking my kids. And we drove down an hour and a half down to a small city called Guaymas, which is next to San Carlos Bay in Sonora. And that's when we started to kind of just, try to find ourselves. And then, a few years later, my mom said, man, this isn't working out. There's no future here. Yeah. And that's when she asked my grandparents if they can watch me. And she said, hey, I'm going to go and try my luck in California, in the United States of America. Can you watch them for me just until I get situated? I promise I'll send money and I'll come back. And back then there was no social media. It was how can you communicate back then? Only through a telephone, right? Like letters or a telephone. And my grandmother's neighbor had a telephone. He had the only telephone in the entire neighborhood, by the way, right? And she, my grandparents said, okay, we'll do it. We'll watch them. We'll take care of them. And there was a tough question that was asked when my grandmother and my nana asked my mom, well, when are you planning on coming back for them? And she said, I don't know. Right? When are you coming back? She's like, I don't know, but I promise I am. Right? And, I think it was like a year and a half or 2 years later, she did come back. Well, now we had another obstacle to overcome, which is how is she going to get us across when we're 2 illegal immigrant little boys? So we went to TJ, and one of my aunts had a house there. We stood there for a day or two, kind of planning out how we were going to make the big jump, right? And she finally figured it out. She knew somebody that knew something that if you cross through the sewer canal in San Isidro, California, back then, 9/11, it was pre 9/11. So, it wasn't heavily guarded the way that the border is guarded today. So sure thing, we went through the sewer canal, and we actually got caught the first time, but the immigration officers had enough empathy on my mother that they just said, just go back. So they threw us back. We spent another 24 hours at my aunt's house, and then we tried another route through another sewer canal. We made it to Escondido, California.
You're like 5 or 6 years old here?
I'm in the second grade, about to enter the third grade.
Do you remember this?
I remember glances of my mom literally carrying my brother and kind of, taking me along, because there are certain, like, you don't remember most of your childhood in many cases, but you do remember some of the big things that happen, and you're like, whoa, dude, especially when you start going internally into the subconscious mind, right? So anyway, we made it the second time, made it to Escondido, only lasted about a year and some change there. Economically, we failed, and we went back to Guaymas. And she started working at the hotel resorts in San Carlos, and I started bagging groceries. That's why sometimes I'll put up that picture where I'm bagging groceries, right? And I became the breadwinner at that age, by the way. At that was 10 years old. I was 9 or 10 years old that I became the breadwinner. And I started making about $10 to $12 a day on tips, because we were next to all the white folks in San Carlos, this grocery store, this big retail store called Ley, L-E-Y. And then my mom was making about $30 a week, so I became the breadwinner. We saved up enough money, got her on a bus to Phoenix, right? And then a year and a half later, she only brought me over first through a hole in the fence in Nogales. Wow. And then a year and a half later, then she brought my brother, and, so on and so on. So, and then that was 1996. I was about to enter the 7th grade the second time that I came down here. And, it was interesting, man, because, at that point, she was like, you know what, I'm going to start fixing your paperwork. And she started fixing my paperwork in 1997. So, early 2000s, I got my work permit. And then a year later, my green card, AKA my permanent resident card. Yeah. And then in 2012, I got my citizenship. And then in 2013, I launched my business. Thank you, brother.
I became a U.S. citizen around the same time. Actually, no, it was a few years later. I think I became a citizen. What year was it? Yeah, but I did the same process. From Canada.
What's the wait time on Canadian citizens, like, to get citizenship?
I mean, it's the exact same. It doesn't matter if you come from Canada, from Norway, from Mexico, it's the same.
Are you sure about that? Because the wait time for Mexican immigrants...
Wait time to get an appointment actually is longer, though. So there's different wait times to get an appointment. Then once you get an appointment, you start the process.
How long did it take you to become a citizen?
5 years.
Okay, how long did it take you to get a permanent resident card?
Well, I got that quickly because I did it through marriage.
Okay.
So that was pretty quick. If you get married in the United States, you have to get married in the United States. If you do it in the United States, you can get it in like 30 days. That's number one priority on their backlog. But if you get married outside the United States, it's completely different.
Got it. Because last time I checked, the wait time for a Mexican immigrant over the age of 21 to even get an appointment, right?
Yeah, that's what's really long. It's like 5 years, 6 years or something.
It's over 10 years
over
right
10
now.
Years, yeah.
Yeah, it's one of the countries that actually has the longest wait times.
But for my brother...
Because there's more... See, you have to understand, right? There's more people from Mexico trying to come in, right? And there's only a certain amount of visas or permits that they can give out per year.
For siblings, though, so if I wanted to bring my brother, we're working on a business visa for him.
But now you're a citizen.
It's 10 years, though, for siblings, so.
Wow.
In Canada. Yeah. So similar. Like, the whole thing is broken.
Reach out to my cousin. He's a top immigration attorney out of Detroit. The guy's amazing. If anyone needs something, DM me, and I'll hook you up with my cousin.
There it is. For all the Mexicans that are watching, reach out to Zack.
Specifically Mexicans. He's fluent in Spanish, too. But I just want to stop and highlight the inspiration and the rock your mom is. I mean, think about her decision. If she didn't make those... First of all, you wouldn't be sitting here right now. I mean, just to have the foresight, the strength to leave your father because of the abuse, and then to have the intuition to come to the States, I mean, that's just incredible in itself.
My mom was, a lot of people, right? A lot of people that grow up in poverty, we don't have good examples, right? That we don't have good programming, and that's why most people, especially coming from poverty, we end up either in jail or we end up, we end up not making it, right? Not being financially successful, most people. But here's the facts, right? I always say that I had the best example possible in my mom, right? Because the things that I learned from her, right, is, I learned that, she had a vision. She had a vision to see something that was greater than what it was, right? She had commitment. She had work ethic. She had perseverance, right? She was relentless. She never took no for an answer. So, and she still to this day doesn't speak English, right? And here, here's the happy ending to that story, right? In 2017, it was around April of 2017, I retired her.
I saw the video.
I supplemented her income and said, you don't have to work anymore, Mom, And not only did I supplement her income, but I take care of her living expenses, from her house all the way to her stay. Like to her house all the way to her freaking phone bill. She don't even have to pay a phone bill, right?
And that probably gives you a lot more satisfaction.
It gives me a lot of peace of mind,
another Rolls Royce payment.
Absolutely, it gives me peace of mind, brother. Honestly,
that's my favorite thing to spend my money on is my family and my friends.
Yep. Well,
great experiences with my family or friends.
Experiences and memories.
Or helping them get out of, whatever it is they need.
So my mother, right? My mother doesn't have a retirement plan. I ended up being her retirement plan.
For sure.
Good investment.
But that motivates you even further too, to wake up, and that gives you, inspiration and motivation to support.
Absolutely.
Sure. What does she do all day now?
Let's see here. I know her entire schedule, by the way. She gets up early, then she makes herself some breakfast. It's not very exciting, by the way. Her and I, we talk around 9 in the morning. And then every day, whether it's either a text, a voice memo, or a phone call, right? And what she really gets excited about is she cooks food and she brings it over to my house. Between 5:30 and 6:30, she brings my family dinner just about every single day, Monday through Friday.
Nice.
So we get to break bread just about every day.
That's
your mom a great cook? Yeah.
She is. She is. And then the other thing is, whenever there's a fight, right? Like if there's a boxing match, she's coming over on Saturday, and so we spend a lot more time. I moved her a mile away from where we are. Just to make sure that the proximity is there.
Good for you.
So it's been a beautiful journey in that aspect, man. She doesn't have to work, God willing, for the rest of her life.
It's incredible. So you're in a rough neighborhood. You mentioned that a lot of people, didn't have good examples. Did you have some? Now you're saying you're multimillionaire, million followers, massive influence. Everyone in the industry knows who you are. You've done thousands of transactions, employed hundreds of people. How do we get from coming across the border, meeting your wife at 17 in high school, over to where you are right now? Like, did you have some good influences that guided you on the way? How did you end up in real estate?
I think we were talking about what got me to a certain place won't get me to the next place, right?
Yeah.
I think that there was definitely some healthy ambition, right, to do better, just because I saw my mom, struggle. And I remember walking up one day, we were still living in Mexico, and it was raining, and there was dirt roads, so it was really muddy. And I remember her and I literally walking up to my grandmother's house where we were in Mexico, and for some reason just looking up at her as still a little boy, and oh, that's what it was. She had just got out of work. She picked me up from my aunt's house, and then we took the city bus to my grandma's house. And it's nighttime, man, and we're just kind of going up. It's already like 7:30 at night, and I remember me looking up at her and just telling her, Mom, one day, you're not gonna have to work. One day, you're not gonna have to worry about money. And I think that at an early age kind of left a huge imprint on me.
Yeah.
And brother, I've been working since I can remember, ever since I was at 10 years old, I'm bagging groceries. And when we get here, once we got to America, I was working construction during the summer to take care of my uniforms for school. And, I always, a lot of people don't know this, but even when I was in my teenage years, I was working at the assembly line at the Dow Corporation, the people that make soaps.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Wow. When I was to be down the street from here. The
Dow Corp. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. I was working at the airport doing what's called back setup, where I'm putting together like the little carts that have all the food and all that's called back setup, right?
Yeah.
So while my mom was washing dishes, we were, her and I have shared some jobs together.
Wow.
We were on the same assembly line. We worked at the airport together.
Wow.
My mom and I have shared
Your
a lot
success must taste so fucking good coming from.
Yeah.
No, I'm just saying, it's like I can't empathize, where you came from because I haven't experienced that. I never, So for you to go,
I don't wish that on anybody. By the way,
it also made you who you are. You're a strong, resilient individual with a huge vision, like your mom, to now be at the top of the food chain and supporting other people. I mean, you got to have. When you go to sleep at night, just be completely gratified and fulfilled. To come from where you were to where you are today is amazing.
Brother, but I'll tell you what, what's here, here's a problem. Here's a big challenge that I go through now, right? What's fun? Here, I'm going to ask you straight up, right? We're talking business. What's your monthly payroll expenses? You should know that.
450,000.
450?
Yeah.
That's pretty damn good. What's your monthly payroll expenses?
I don't have pay. Everyone's an independent contractor.
Got it. So my monthly payroll expenses, and it varies, right? It's anywhere from 350 to 380 every single month. Those are my monthly payroll expenses, right? Overall, within our organization as a whole. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? And it's like when you decide to go big, then you have to understand, and you have to go. You have to be willing to go through those breaking points and those years of building. You get what I'm saying? Because right now, like let's just say that we made we have a bad month and we made $500,000 this month, right? Most people would consider, especially in the wholesale space, most people would consider $500,000 in a month what?
They would consider that a really good month, probably a record month for most wholesalers.
Depends on the size of the company.
Depends on the size of the company.
I'll sit here and tell you, 99% of wholesale companies will say, damn, bro, we had a pretty good month, $500,000, right? Here's the catch to it, right? $500,000 pays for our expenses.
Right.
Yeah.
The building alone, right? We bought that building in 2019. That building alone is $25,000 a month.
Yeah.
That's just the building alone. That operating expense is more than most wholesale companies.
Yeah.
Most wholesale companies have their employees on independent contracting, 1099s. Mm-hmm. Right? Most wholesale companies have their employees on commission only 20%.
Yeah.
Because they don't want the liability.
Yeah.
They don't want the risk.
They don't want fixed costs.
So whenever people, it's funny because you see people out there, right? You see people out there, like buying, and I was there before, right? When, they're buying the cars and they're buying the jewelry and they're buying all this, but guess what? All they got to do to afford that is make $100K a month.
Yeah.
Their payroll expense, they probably rent a little $3,500 office a month, and then their guys are on commission only, right? 20%. So, it's easy for those people to look like they're balling.
No. Yeah.
But when you decide to actually try to build something much bigger, right? That's when the real growth begins. That's when the real challenges begin. Now you're not a fly by night company. You're not running a circus, because I've ran a circus. Luigi has worked with me when I ran a circus. Edgar has worked with me when I ran a circus. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
When it was like free for all and come and go, and like we weren't incorporated. We didn't have human resources. We didn't have a financial department, right?
Yeah.
We didn't have none of this stuff. This was back in like 18 and 19. And you go through that long enough, and you get to see how broken your structure and your systems are. And then you're like, I can't do that anymore. It's costing me peace of mind.
Yeah.
Right? And then you're like, I'm going to incorporate. We decided to start incorporating back around 2021, right? When we started building out departments and we started building out SOPs and systems and processes and hierarchy and employee review evaluations. Once we decided to start doing that, my old crew started to quit.
Yeah. Different culture.
Think about what I just said. Mm-hmm. when I decided to become a real businessman, right? Where you know there's processes and there's people and there's managing and there's leadership, right? That's when all my people started to quit.
It's interesting.
Oh, man. Oh, you brought in a COO? You brought in a COO? Oh, I got to answer to him now?
Yeah.
I can't go directly to you anymore? We can't shoot this shit anymore? Right?
Yeah.
Everything started to shift. And then those same people that were in some cases entitled
Yeah.
began to kind of like, oh, you changed, bro. You changed. Why? Because I don't want to run a circus anymore and I don't want to work for you.
Yeah.
The founder, now I'm the not the owner, the business owner, right? Just because I own an LLC with 3 or 4 people in the founder, right? I don't want to work for you anymore. Now we're doing this the right way. You work for me.
Yeah. Yeah. In the early days, you have to have this very close knit, bro-y kind of culture. Because you're all in the trenches. There's no assigned roles because everyone's got to do a little bit of everything, right? Everyone's filling in. Everyone's being a little bit of an executive assistant, a little bit of an accountant, a little bit of a marketer, a salesperson. Like it starts off with the entrepreneur wearing all the hats, and then usually they find a buddy or a couple buddies or someone they worked with, and you get that original crew. But the people that get you to the first 5, 10 million aren't the people that are going to take you to 100 million. So I've seen 100%. That over and over again.
100%.
But also the accountability aspect. All of a sudden there's structures in place and all of a sudden, I don't want to be accountable. You're my boy.
Right.
Yeah.
We're friends. So
now
I can kind of break the rules.
Now there's targets to hit and metric and trackability through metrics and metrics, KPIs, you know, and it's like, just like he said, man, you know, it goes from being a, you know, of what is it, like a little mom and pop family shop to, sorry, we're not doing that anymore. You know, we're going to do this thing the right way.
Your superstars would have been retained because they could understand the value of going bigger and also respect the vision. Then the other people, who didn't like structure would vacate because they like autonomy, or maybe they were an entrepreneur like you and says, I don't like to have this structure.
Well, they weren't entrepreneurs.
Or they perceived themselves to be.
That was the culture that I was shooting.
Yeah.
I was shooting. Most people that came to us came from a corporate environment, and we molded them and poisoned them to become we reprogrammed them. No, you're an entrepreneur, right? You got to get this done, and you got to be proactive, and you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then they we started to include them in every meeting. Yeah. Big mistake. Right. Instead of keeping them in their position, in their role, in their department, right? Oh yeah, come learn marketing, come learn hiring, come learn how to run your own business.
Right.
And then, you know what I mean?
I see this a lot with the wholesaling companies. A great sales guy you'll retain for a year, maybe 2 years, and then they're out competing against you. How do you solve that? Stop hiring people. Like here, I tell this, so we own a solar company now, right? It's called Powervana. And I had to tell my CEO, right, Garrett, I said, hey, first of all, because we had a quarterly meeting. You know, we follow the traction model. Yeah. Right. So we had our quarterly meeting for the solar company. And he's like, yeah, man, so here's our compensation plan. And I said, hey, why are you paying that? He's like, well, this is just what all solar companies pay. I said, yeah. But you pay that because solar reps expect it. That's the industry standard. I said, stop hiring solar people. You know, for our company, Property, our real estate company, I don't hire real estate people anymore. Yeah, I agree with that.
Right? I hire corporate salespeople from Indeed. And, you know, I put together, you know, my HR lady runs an ad. She boosts the ad. She has a budget for the ad. And then she goes through a hiring process, which is, all right, send your resume, send your application, goes through the applications, goes through the resumes. If they qualify out of 150, maybe there's 25 to 30 that qualify. Then they have their first virtual meeting with her. And then their second, if they get through the first virtual meeting, then they go through to the department leader. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. There's a whole process now. What that does is it filters all the riffraff.
Yeah.
It filters all the riffraff. You get what I'm saying?
I get it.
I no longer, even though every now and then I'll post something on social media like hiring. I don't like to hire people from social media.
Yeah.
I don't.
Yeah.
I don't, because of the same reason. It's like, they want to be. They want to be you. If you're pulling up in a Rolls Royce, if you're wearing a nice watch, they want to wear a nice watch too, right?
Yeah.
And there's nothing wrong with that. But I need people. I need employees.
Yeah.
I need employees. If you truly are an A player, we'll see. Your KPIs will tell me that. You know what I mean? Your KPIs will tell me if you're an A player.
Yeah.
What I always tell my team when I bring new people on is, look, we run it like a sports team. Everyone's got their position. You need to be the best in the world at your one thing. Don't worry about everyone else. We all got to just be the best in the world at our one thing, and then trust the guy to our right and to our left to get their shit done. But also, if the offense is going out and scoring 5 goals and you're the goalie and you're letting 7 goals in, sorry, you're out. It doesn't matter who you are, you're out. And I think that's the way you got to run it. I like what you said about hiring an HR manager. We hired a professional recruiter in-house this year. One of the greatest investments. One of the greatest investments, because they bring more, but like the value of bringing it, like that person's brought in multiple rock stars, multiple killer rocks. Like just filled the executive assistant role this week. Rachel over there. Congratulations, Rachel, for joining the Investorlift team. 200 applicants. 200 applicants from one job. Even the lady that was working at the front desk here at the building applied. I ran into the elevator. She's like, Ari, I sent my resume, but I haven't heard back from. So we start with 200, and then he cuts that down to 25 or so interviews. Then we do personality assessments, DISC assessments, make sure they have the right personality profile. Then we cut that down to the top 5 that then I interview, and then I cut that down to the top 3 that I had shadow me for a day to see if it was a good fit, and then down to 1. We've done the same kind of process with multiple roles, and then the quality of person that we get is 10 times what we would get if we just randomly hired someone from social media. My HR lady had us on in the company take a personality test. Yeah. I ended up being one of the 2 mavericks in the building. Who's the other? It was one of my video guys. Yeah. Yeah. A guy named Brooklyn. Yeah. Yeah. He was the only other maverick in the building. Not even Sal, not even, it was very interesting that, everybody's personality. Yeah. I was gonna say, if Sal was a maverick, you'd be in trouble. Yeah. Yeah. It was to the T, by the way. How is Sal, by the way? Amazing, bro. Loving life. Brother, I'm not going to lie to you. These last 2 years, our head has been down. Yeah. Like we've been operating. Every day we come and we put our breakdown. Yeah. Every day, right? We've been, like I said, we've been managing, we've been leading, we've been improving our systems and processes. We have our L10 meetings with all our companies every single Tuesday. So that's what we've been doing. That's why, like this year, praise God that I didn't, the whole like speaking thing, that's something that I really was passionate about from 2018 to the beginning of 2023. Yeah. I'm passionate about making this work and building a $100 million in annual revenue company. I was talking to one guy that I talk to very, very frequently is Bradley, right? Well, yeah. we have virtual cigar sessions. Great guy, by the way. Check out his 11 out of 10 you guys podcast. Did one, yeah, exactly. We'll link it up here. Yeah, so him and I are about to do some real estate together. October 18th and 19th, we're going to start doing some real estate together, and it's going to be really fun. He's choosing me as his real estate guy, right? Yeah. And I'm excited about that. I'm excited because I think him and I make a good team, right? Yeah. We make a good team. We're both, mature enough to, to handle business the way that it's supposed to. It's not our first rodeo. We've already dated. Yeah. We've done one venture together, and it was successful, right? So now that we've dated, we're like, okay, let's get a little more serious now, right? But anyway, I was talking to him, and I this is what I told him. I said, brother, he was at the Montage in Cabo. He goes to Cabo a lot, by the way, right? People love Cabo. I like been Cabo. There. Yeah. Cabo Wabo. Never been there. I haven't been there. The drinks at Cabo Wabo. Really? Yeah. Okay. So he's at the Montage,
and he's paying, thousands and thousands of dollars per night, right, to stay at the Montage. Beautiful place from what I hear.
Yeah.
The Montage, one of the best spots there. And I go, hey brother, I said, that's great, because he makes tens of millions of dollars every single year, right? And I said, hey brother, when are you ready to do some big stuff? He's like, what are you talking about? Because I think Brad makes between 35 and maybe $50 million a year, which is a good living for a lot of people, by the way.
Good living? What do you mean? It's a great living.
I know. But I said, when are you ready to start doing some big stuff? Watch this. He goes, well, I'm ready now. He goes, I'm ready now. He's like, I've been thinking about getting serious about real estate for like 5 years now.
Yeah.
So it took for him and I to develop this like relationship over the past couple of years for him to be like, okay, let's move forward. I said, and this is what I said to him. I said, and this is personal, so I hope he doesn't get mad because I love him. And, he's a brother and a mentor and everything you can think of. I said, hey brother, you're at the Montage and you've done really, really great for yourself. I said, Grant Cardone is on a 300-foot yacht at the French Riviera for a month. Let that sink in. Mm-hmm. And we just stayed quiet. He's like, he's looking around, he's like, he knew it. He's like, this motherfucker.
Investorlift sells 3,000 to 5,000 properties a month. And the cool thing is, the reason this company is worth so much, they have all the data. They know everything about every buyer and every market and every property.
Every buyer in America has a profile.
Every buyer in America.
He knew. I called them out.
Those two guys are competitive.
They are. I called them out. I said, you're at the Montage. He's on a freaking yacht at the French Riviera next to the CEOs and founders of multi-billion-dollar companies. I said, let's go do that.
Yeah.
Remember, like, how you would say, hey, when you were saying earlier, hey, you're doing pretty good. You're at the top. I'm like, I'm not.
You're just not a complacent individual. None of us
There's
really
always
are,
a
right?
level.
They always say, when are you going to stop? What do you mean stop?
I told Brad, I'm like, hey, bro, let's go get some money from Dubai and let's start buying everything over here.
Yeah.
See, that's why, like, I actually feel, because Sal and I have been building so hard, right? It's been planting season.
Yeah.
That's why I keep talking about the harvest is coming. The harvest is coming, right? Because I feel like the foundation and infrastructure that we are now setting is gonna be ideal to now start building just like this building, floor by floor by floor by floor. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And that's what I'm ready for. I'm ready to start doing some big stuff. Like, I'm underperforming when it comes to the income or revenue that I'm bringing per year, right? I'm underperforming according to my level of ambition and talent, right? And my capability. I'm underperforming. I am underperforming right now, but I also know that I have to be patient.
Yeah.
I also know that I have to be patient. I feel like, I feel like, dude, like, man, I've been patient. Like, it's funny because it's like, okay, you guys have made a good amount of money, right? The last time that we made below $12 million was 2021, right? So we've been slowly scaling, but it's like, a lot of people will consider that a lot of money, but it's like, it's not, you need to keep growing. You need to keep growing. You know what I mean? And how are you going to grow? Well, you're not going to do it alone.
Yeah.
You're not going to do it with the crew of four. You're not going to do it with the a little small fly-by-night wholesale shop that has, you and 3 acquisition guys and 1 or 2 Dispo guys and et cetera, et cetera. That's not the way. No wholesale company is ever going to hit, 9 figures in a year.
So let's talk about this. How, you've got these visions of this grandeur life, and I believe you're
not the grandeur life.
So
I don't know what it might bring a grandeur life, right?
Okay.
I got these visions. I got huge targets and goals. Yes.
I love that. And I respect that. I think you're going to get all the way there. There's no
God
question.
Willing, if
God
that's
will.
in his plans. Yeah.
But you have multiple businesses. You've got a real estate, which you guys started in, you and Sal. You got solar. You've got other businesses. Why not hyper focus on just one to be the best
What
of
do
the
you think
best?
we've been? Well, some of them are vertically integrated. One feeds another.
Understood.
You
So
get
there's
what
a
I'm saying?
synergistic
So all
relationship.
what does all in feed, right? All in feeds, it's like a funnel, right? All in feeds Call Geeks, all in feeds real estate, all in feeds Prospect X. All, you know, again, they're all vertically integrated. You get what I'm saying?
Sure.
All in feeds coaching. And if you get the coaching, then you can sell the Prospect X and the Call Geeks. They're all vertically integrated.
But wouldn't the coaching take, I mean, the opportunity cost of your time for coaching, whether you
that's
charge.
why I don't do a lot of it.
It doesn't make sense
do
to
a
get
lot
to
of
the
it.
highest level. Even if somebody
Yeah.
paid you $5,000 an hour, it doesn't make sense to get to the level where you want to go.
No, I don't do a lot of it.
Got it.
But I will say, just openly, it is teaching, educating is a passion of mine.
There you go.
But it's not the main thing.
I think you should do it if you enjoy doing it.
Yeah,
You
and that's
know?
why. Guess what? Guess how many coaching clients I have right now?
5.
Nope.
3.
3.
There you go.
Yeah, people have literally offered me
Actually-
$100,000 to go to their office for a weekend, and I'm like, no, sorry, my opportunity cost is too high. But I will jump on a call for a couple hours with a 21-year-old young guy that is just got his first deal and wants some advice. Why? Because I enjoy doing it, and
Yes.
I'm not sending him a bill for it.
Sure.
Here, my first client in January paid me $100,000. You can look them up, Nandor and Lola, right? They're out of Florida. They paid me $100,000 to help them sell their book of business in the insurance game and transition them over into the real estate game.
Wow.
Yeah.
They came to my office. They spent weeks at my office just shadowing and camping. And, you know, I took them up to Sedona and, like, you know, someone pays you $100K.
Yeah.
You're gonna, you know, you're gonna treat them a little differently. And I know that sounds bad, but what I mean by you're gonna treat them a little differently is you're gonna want to over deliver because those people are serious people.
Yeah.
Someone's
They're
not
making a big
gonna pay you
investment.
$100,000 for coaching, if you know, for the bare minimum. You know what I mean? They want the whole works, right?
The worst thing is when you give someone advice, you know exactly what they need to do. You tell them what to do, and then you check back a year later, and they haven't done any of it.
but anybody that pays you $100,000
They're
is
gonna
gonna,
Yeah.
right? Listen, what is it? Money in, commitment out,
Yeah.
right? And then when people pay, what they pay attention,
Sure.
right? So it's like I paid,
Yeah.
so there's a commitment there. My second guy that another guy out of California, his construction company, it's a building design company. He paid us $50,000 for consulting, and you know his company does about $6 million. We're trying to get him to $8.5 million by the end of next year, right? Just had a call with him today, right? See, I do a little bit of it. I don't do. Back then, I used to have like a whole, you know what I mean?
Yeah, you
My-
had
look,
2,500 people the last time. I went
Watch
to,
this.
something
Watch
like that.
this. This is how you know that it's not so much about the money, but it's about the passion.
Yeah.
I have a little group called the CEO Inner Circle that's $97 a month. Okay. In that little group, you have moving companies, landscaping companies, pool companies, roofing companies, wholesalers, right? And I do that bi-weekly on Wednesdays for 1 hour.
Yeah.
So I still get to do my little passion thing, but
Yeah.
I'm 95% of my time is going towards building the companies.
Got it.
Yeah. Yeah, I like what you were saying with your conversation with Brad, because if you look at what Grant did that was super smart, was he used
Real
his
estate.
brand
Yeah.
to borrow a bunch of money, right? He didn't play with his own money. He went and raised a fund and started deploying capital. And the capital game is that the tip of the pyramid. So, like, I imagine if there's someone that would have a competitive advantage in that space, would be someone like you.
Yeah.
You know, now you combine that with a guy like you guys both have big brands.
Yep.
I like the idea. Go out to Dubai, gets, you know, all these, especially China. Like everyone's trying. You can't buy real estate in China. You can only lease it from the government. You can't actually have actual property rights. There was one person that was doing this in DC. She bought over 100 houses from us in 1 year. And it was just Chinese money coming in that they just wanted to put in the US where it's safe.
She was the liaison or set
the
up a Chinese
liaison.
fund
Yeah.
to deploy and gets a management fee and equity.
Yeah. But same thing with, you know, the Saudi money, the Dubai money. They have so much, like 100 million for them is like nothing. But you go take something like that and you deploy it into real estate.
You know, that's what, can we talk about the wholesale industry for a second?
Yeah.
Please.
Because I know a lot of people that listen to this show is they're wholesalers, right?
Yeah.
I will forever be in love with the wholesale industry because it's what saved my life, you know, economically. and it's provided financial freedom for me and my wife and my mother, right? And for other people in my family. So that's not negotiable, right? I will forever have love. But here's the problem. A lot of people, not everybody, but a lot of people in the wholesale space lack integrity.
Yeah.
It's a very low entry barrier to get in.
Sure.
Yeah.
You can be some hoodlum, right? And I'm not better than any hoodlum because I came from the hood, right? So I'm technically a hoodlum too, right? You can be some hoodlum that, you know, has no moral compass, lacks integrity, make money, burn people, and, you know, even build a brand in the wholesale space.
Yeah.
Right? Here's the other problem. The energetic frequency of most people in the wholesale space is very low. It's very low. And that's why they're not in the right rooms, or that's why they're not around the right people, because talent gets you in the room, but your character will keep you in the room. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Most of these dudes, they have to pay. They have to pay to get next to a guy like Bradley.
Yeah.
They have to pay to get next to like an Ed Milet. They have to pay to get next to a guy like, you know, Andy Elliott.
Yeah.
Right? They have to pay. They can't naturally get there
Yeah.
because they lack. There's a lack there.
Well,
There's a lack there. I've never had to pay to get next to Ed Milet. You get what I'm saying?
I know this for a fact because one of the most impressive things you ever said to me was at your event in December, the own event, great event. You had one of the most stacked speaker lineups I've ever
That's
seen.
Ed Milet and myself just texting back and forth, right?
Yeah.
That's him and I just texting back and forth, right? I can show you Andy Frisella. I can show you Brad Lee. I never had to pay these guys to become friends with them.
So I want to dive into that because
think about that for a second.
But in the same respect too.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I was just saying, at your event, okay, first of all, can you list some of the names that spoke at your last event? Like, this is impressive lineup. You had
Dan
Andy
Martell,
Elliott,
Andy Elliott, Wes Watson, Brad Lee, who else? I can't even remember the lineup anymore.
Now, most of these guys are $100,000 to go speak at an event, right? And they're flying in on their private jets. Just their private jet fuel bills, $35,000. So I remember at the event, I came up to you and I said,
are you going to say what I told you by the bar?
yeah, is that okay?
That's fine.
Okay. So I walk up to you at the bar. You asked me, hey, what do you think? I said, Carlos, I got to say,
how much did the speaker lineup cost you?
Have the most impressive speaker lineup I've ever seen. It's got to, I'm doing the math in my head. It's got to be $500,000 to $1 million you spent on speakers.
I'm guessing you spent
Can I ask
zero.
you how much you spent?
Zero.
What was your answer?
Zero.
I
Zero.
knew it.
How'd you
That's
know?
impressive.
How'd you
Okay,
know?
so
Because
how
it
the
just
hell do you
goes
do
in
that?
with your mentality of who you are, your frequency, right? Your energy. I'm a huge advocate for the relationships are everything. So in the respect that you say these hoodlums, hypothetically, these wholesale people out there, I
I'm
just
not
want to say,
calling all the
no, I'm not calling them
wholesalers
hoodlums.
hoodlum.
No, I'm just
Man,
making a point. No.
I
You
come
say
from the hood too. You know
the
what I mean?
barrier to entry in wholesale is pretty much zero, right? You can
Yeah.
learn a concept, you can
Cell
tap a
phone,
Same thing with
Hardly
solar, by
zero.
the way. Same thing with solar.
I get it.
Yeah.
But my point is also the industry will push those people out of the rooms as well because the industry is getting smaller and smaller in terms of who's who and
that's
what
true.
and what. So as soon as you burn one person or you have that negative energy or you're that scumbag or whatever you want to call it,
Everybody
people
knows.
know.
It's a small world.
Do good business and good people and good energy comes to you. It's an energetic thing. It's a level of reciprocation.
You know that.
By the
Absolutely.
way, this is a complete side tangent, but you're going to love this because it's related. Two-way reviews are coming to Investorlift.
That's great.
We introduced the wholesaler blacklist a while ago. 170,000 bad actors have been blacklisted, shut out of everyone doing business on Investorlift.
Love that.
So far since we launched that feature, I'm now taking a step further, introducing two-way reviews. And then what we're going to do is build pages for every single investor, almost like a LinkedIn page.
That's amazing.
It's got your star reviews, every review. I can review Zack and say, this guy's legit. He always closes. If he says he's going to buy it, he says he's going to buy it. I can review Carlos. Hey, Carlos is a guy of integrity. His deals always make sense. But I want to bring more transparency to the industry because if we don't clean it up internally, if the private industry doesn't clean it up, the government's going to try to do it for us.
There you go.
They're already working on it, right?
Yeah.
South Carolina, Oklahoma,
Yeah.
Illinois,
But I think those things are actually good things for the industry.
Yeah,
I really
I do too. I do too.
Okay, so 11 out of 10 is all about, finding people that are uniquely talented at one thing better than anyone else in the world. I think your unique talent is connecting
People.
with other people. You're 11 out of 10 on connecting with people.
That's impressive. You have what would it cost most people? 7 figures to do your event?
Easy.
0.
Just on speaker fees.
Yeah.
But then you could also reciprocate and speak at their events too.
Always.
Of course.
Well, that's the way it works. Here, I just spoke at Pineda's event last month, right?
Yeah, great guy.
I don't charge him anything. He takes care of my flight, takes care of my hotel, and I show up for him. I've been selling him houses since 2015.
amazing.
I used to wholesale him houses back in 2015. You know what I mean? How funny is that, right?
Yeah.
So I got to ask you, how do you do it? Like, how do you build relationships with all these massive influencers?
You know what it is,
and
bro?
how do you get them to?
He mentioned something. I think that authenticity goes a long way.
Yeah.
I believe that authenticity is a very high vibrating, energetic frequency.
Yeah.
Right. Real love and care goes a long way. A lot of people, especially in the wholesale space, right? They're always constantly seeking what someone can do for them. Like, oh, if I get next to this guy, I can leverage that and do this, right? A lesson I learned from one of my good friends, a guy named Ken Jocelyn, he says, don't be the type of person that wants something from someone. Be the type of person that wants something for someone. And I've always just served with no expectations.
Yeah.
I've served and I've served and I've served with no expectations.
Say that again for the audience. That is so profound. People can really, one thing that I love about this, people say they're working out or we get these texts and DMs on Instagram and they find this value. Say that line again about in my opinion, I call it abundance mindset.
Mm-hmm.
There's enough for everybody to serve versus to extract. Say that line again because it's so good.
You got to be that one.
Yeah, be the type of
You
person.
want to be the type of person that wants something for someone, not the type of person that wants something from someone.
I love that.
You know what I mean?
I love that.
It really goes a long way because, man, and if you do it genuinely,
correct.
If you just do it, like, brother, I can't tell you how many. Again, the reason why some of these folks are my friends is because we've had a lot of spiritual exchanges on a private level. On a private level, right? I'll give you an example. I believe that after this conversation, watch this. I was speaking. Brad and I were just getting to know each other, and he had already spoken at my event, and he really liked me. And I went over, and he asked me to speak at his event, and I spoke at his event. It was called Closure School, right?
Yeah.
And he really liked me. You can tell that he was attracted to my energy, And my wife goes, we're staying at the hotel or whatever. She goes, babe, by the way, tomorrow, she goes, wake up early. I go, why? What's going on? She's like, Brad's going to ask you prior to go to breakfast. I said, what? What do you mean he's going to ask me to go to Reno? I was like, all right, wake up at 6, go to the gym. And sure enough, bing, Brad hits me up in the morning, right? It's like 7 something now, 7 something. He goes, hey, I'm going to pick you up. What time can you be ready? Let's go have breakfast. I was like, is my wife some kind of like, what do you know what I mean? Like, what?
So funny.
Right. And then he picks me up and we go to his favorite place and, and then he just sits me down. We're having a good time and we're eating. It's good food and good conversation. And he looks at me and he goes, Carlos, if you were Brad Lee, what would you do with your next 12 months?
Good question. That's a great question.
Right? And I go, number 1, continue to do what you're doing with your health, because he was in the process of getting his health right. So continue to do that.
Yeah.
Continue to get ripped, get jacked, right? Just continue to do that. Number 2, I said, continue to put out the content. If anything, put it in overdrive, right? Put your people love your content. Continue to do that. And I said, but here's something that I believe that's going to be very helpful. I said 1 + 1 = 11.
Yeah.
He's like, what do you? I said,
11 out of 10.
go write collaborations. I said, collaborate with the right people.
Yeah.
And that's something that I've been trying to do now. Remember, I've been hitting you up like,
you've been
right?
hitting up, yeah.
I only like, I never want to build anything by myself ever again.
Yeah, it's too hard.
He knows, right?
Yeah.
It's like 1 + 1 = 11. I want to collaborate with the right people, right? And that's the same advice I gave to him, because bro, if I'm going to give you advice, right, that's what I'm trying to do also. And I just said, hey, collaborate with the right people. So that type of kind of spiritual exchange or interaction is where people just see your value. Little situations like that, right? Like I'm telling you, it's beautiful. I'll give you an example. Yesterday, a doctor that's really close to the 10X kind of health systems and all that, he hit me up, and I spiritually already knew why he was hitting me up, right? He hit me up and he goes, hey brother, he goes, yo. I said, hey brother, how you doing? He goes, not much, man. I wanted to see how you were doing. I said, let's have lunch Thursday. People hit me up when they just need a little bit of, maybe a little bit of just insight, but not like, cause see, I try to see things differently, like from a spiritual aspect. Like I got my spiritual lenses on at all time now, you know what I mean? And they hit me up when they need a little bit of that part where, hey bro, this is what I'm going through. What would be your advice? Yeah. Because I'm always going to give you maybe not what you want to hear, but I'm going to give you a neutral perspective, not my perspective, and something that is good for you. I'm not going to be seeking my own personal interest. I'm going to be seeking your personal interest. You know what I'm saying? Yeah.
But that's a true friend. A true friend can be critical and constructive in a way that's going to enhance them, that there's no agenda on your behalf, only to solely benefit that third party. That's a true friend. True friends tell you the fucking facts.
That's right.
The stuff that you don't want to hear. They're not your cheerleader per se. They're cheering for you, but they're not your cheerleader.
And guess what happens, right? When someone gives you advice at that level, you just know, you're like, that's a good dude. Yeah. That's a good dude.
It's just a matter of respect.
Yeah. It's like, man, that guy, because what's funny with this doctor, before he jumped on the 10X situation, I said, hey brother, that's amazing. We were at dinner, we were at Fleming's, and we're just having a little steak and a little red wine. And this is a really, really high level individual, right? He has his own practice and stuff. He's like, yeah, I'm thinking about doing this, and this with, this, and this, right? I said, okay, brother. Well, here's my advice. I said, just be conscious of this, and this. Yeah. And guess what happened? That, and that. And we reconvened, and he was like, you know what? He's like, I'm at peace. He's like, he said, I'm at peace. My decision now of not being part of that whole limelight and stuff, I'm at peace. I feel more at peace now. Everything that you said was gonna happen happened, and now I'm at peace. I did it. I'm good. There's no bad blood. There's no bridges burned. I'm good.
Love it. I love what you were saying about 1 + 1 = 11, because, if I think about like moments in my life where like just everything changed for the better, it was usually because of like one conversation with one person that just completely, for lack of a better word, mind fucked me and like got me off of something stupid I was doing. Or you? Yeah, like literally, I wanted to be a millionaire by the time I was 30. At 29, I'm sitting with negative $5,000 in the bank, $30,000 of bills due at the end of the month. I picked up the phone and I called the 3 richest people I knew. Had 3 very long conversations, some of them going 3 hours deep. Changed everything. And a couple days before my 30th birthday, I had over $1 million cash in the bank for the first time. That's the power of having the right mental operating systems. We've talked about this with a lot of different guests about just if you have the right mental operating systems, the whole world changes, right? If you take someone that's working at McDonald's and they win the Powerball and they get $100 million, you give them $100 million, you check in on them 5 years later, where are they?
Broke.
It's all gone because they haven't adopted the mental models to be able to handle that money.
It's the financial thermostat.
Yeah, and same thing. You take a billionaire, you zero them out, throw them on the streets with a cell phone and $100 cash. You check back 5 years. Guess what? He doesn't just have the billion back. He's got a few more billion on top of it.
For sure.
You know, so it's like the power of mental models. That's why I think collaboration is so powerful, because especially as you get higher up in the game, because as you get higher up in the game, you have to go through so many struggles to get there. You got to, like, the amount of wars you have to fight to get to the point that any of us are at is, most humans could not handle it. Most humans couldn't even handle 1% of it.
You know what the most important thing is as you continue to like scale?
Yeah.
Integrity.
Yeah.
Can I elaborate a little bit on that?
Please, this is your show.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's the Carlos show.
I have collaborated with people that on social media
Yeah.
portrayed to be polished, portrayed to be family men, portrayed to be Christians, and then you start dating, and behind the curtain, what do you find?
Transparency, the truth,
The truth.
the contradictions of what you perceived.
They're not operating in integrity.
Sure.
Right?
Yeah.
And the reason why I believe that it's integrity, that's my number one component now with people that I'm collaborating with. Because, brother, if we're collaborating, I don't think talent is a question at that point.
Yeah.
You got there because you have the skill set, you're talented, right? You have the work ethic, blah, blah, blah. That's why, in my opinion, like even where you are today, right? And where you are today, you already know this because you've been around the block. Integrity. It's like, hey, if there's alignment, right? If our core values align, we can really do well.
Yeah.
But if our core values don't align, I don't care what kind of talent you have or what skill set you bring to the table, it's not going to work in the long run.
It's also going to pollute what you're bringing to the table.
Yep.
Yeah.
I'm going through that. I'm not going through that right now, but I went through it with a recent collaboration that I did.
Yeah. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think the stage that you're at right now, the money isn't really the reward for you, right? Like once you hit a few million, like the money doesn't. That's kind of
really just by default.
It's more of the sport, right? It's more of the sport, and you spend more of your life working than doing anything else. So if you're gonna collaborate with people, I always love collaborating because it gives you a chance to work with your friends, with people you like, with people you're enjoying bouncing ideas off of. And that's one of the most fun things. So like Zack and I doing this podcast together. Like we met, we hit things off so well. Lived at your house for a month last year, and then I came to town. You convinced me to come to town, and now we got the podcast going. Like it's great. I love doing this every week.
I do too.
Yeah, absolutely.
So glad you moved
and
here.
I know we're gonna collaborate on a bunch of stuff.
God willing, yes,
yeah.
sir. Yep.
And yeah, it's just fun. It's fun. Once you get to this level of the game, it's not about the money, it's about the sport.
Correct. It's not about the need, it's the want. We don't need it, but we want to. This is, it's a pleasure. It's enjoyable.
This guy never even goes on vacations. How many vacations have you been on the last 5 years?
I don't know.
I keep on telling Zack, dude, you gotta go spend some of that money. Spend some of that money.
But I think you love what I do. When I'm on vacation, I think about deals and business. But I'm also a simple routine guy. Like I'm a simple guy.
You miss the smell. You miss the order coming up into your nostrils.
That I don't miss. But I do love doing deals.
Yeah.
So I'm sitting here thinking about, future and all that. And, we ask all the guests, where in 5 years, you have hundreds of millions of dollars, God willing, $1 billion, whatever it is. What changes for you? Are you still going to be in Arizona? Are you going to do something with a church? What's going to transpire in the next 5 to 10 years for you? And are you ever going to retire?
So, probably not, right? I was just going to ask him, like, if you made $100 million tomorrow, would you stop working?
No. Yeah, maybe he's going to go into the next concept.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, maybe for a week or two. You know what I mean, right?
Yeah.
So you're right. It's not about the money at some point, right? It's not about the next car, because all that stuff is like temporary. Like if you get a brand new, let's say you go and buy, that's why it's a good thing that you were renting some of those cars.
I just rented all of them for 1 week, got it out of my system. I'm done.
That's what I was going to tell you. That was genius, because
they're
if
so cheap.
You go get yourself in $500,000 in debt for a car, or $300K, whatever, in a few months, like the pleasure's gone.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
After 2 weeks with those cars, I didn't need it. I came home, I got my Tesla. I'm like, thank God I got autopilot.
There you go. See?
Luigi screwed up.
And then Luigi got me banned from the autopilot this week. I landed my vehicle one time, autopilot suspended for 5 days. Just kidding. I got it back last night.
So here's my kind of ending remarks when it comes to that, right? It's number one, I feel like I have completely submitted and given control to our Creator. So wherever He has me, and I know it's very it's mundane to say something like that, but it's how I feel. You know, I gave up control to Him a few years ago, and that's when my life really started to change spiritually, where I'm the happiest I'm healthy. I'm the happiest I've ever been in my marriage. I'm the happiest I've ever been with my girls. And that stuff to me is true wealth, right? So do I want to build something monumental? Absolutely. You know, I do want to build some big things that a lot of people can be a part of.
Yeah.
A lot of people, you know, I want to be able to build some huge things where it brings joy and it brings impact to many people in some way, shape, or form.
Love that.
So that would be my goal.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
And by the way, I think you already are doing that. And you already have done that for years. I remember going to your first event. There's a couple thousand people in the room. You've already impacted so many lives across this industry. A lot of the gurus in the industry now started out as your students.
Absolutely.
You taught half the
I didn't
big
know
players.
I was teaching gurus how to guru.
They weren't. They were just
hilarious.
average guys.
That's so funny.
I didn't know.
I
they
hate
were
that
just
word. I hate this
Bro,
thing, guru.
they're
I hate
all
that word.
like.
Well, hello there. Trick or treat? I think not. We're here at the newest acquisition, and it ain't October 31st yet. It's October 29th, and I just put this bad boy in my portfolio. I'm about to take off my gloves, about to go to the bank, and about to get excited, because this thing is about to be rehabbed and put in the rental portfolio. I may even flip it. But I love the more distressed, the greater the upside opportunity here. So welcome to the newest acquisition. If you ever see deals like this, you don't know how to digest them, click below. Let me show you how to turn this trash into cash. We'll see you soon.
Educators. We'll call them educators.
And by the way, it's funny because look at Luigi came through us,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Through, I think Alex knew him, and then he came through.
Thank
all
you,
in,
by the way.
And I met
Oh,
Luigi
love
at your
Luigi.
podcast, by the way.
Luigi's always had
Shout out to
our back.
Luigi.
Yeah, he's always had
The
our
best.
back. You know what I mean? Edgar came. We were working with Edgar back in the day.
Yeah.
Just right now, let's go to the gurus, right? Like ex-employees. You know what's crazy, bro? I got to see one of my ex-employees flip a house,
Yeah.
and it brought it brought joy to my heart.
Absolutely.
And then I got to see, I don't know if you remember Dora. Luigi, remember Dora? Yeah. I put something up of like, man, I'm like 70%, 77% of my books right now are novations. She's like, I've done 5 of them this year. I go, praise God. Right? Look at the employees, like there was pros and cons, right? Like I was a bad leader at some point because I just didn't know what I didn't know. I didn't. Yeah. That's on me. I was a bad leader. That's on me, right? I had to get my shit together too. You know what I mean? I had to mature in my own way. A lot of pride, a lot of ego, things like that. Like I had to grow up, man. You know what I mean? I think it's just part of the journey, but, man, there's there's ex-employees that are doing good. They're doing flips. They have their own businesses, right? Some of them are guruing. I got a lot of students, that became educators, like the Eric Kleins of the world, the Tiffany and Josh's Highs of the world, and the Austin Rutherfords of the world. A lot of these folks, they got their own like education, and hey, guess what? If you can influence or impact someone to step their game up, to become more, that's not a bad thing.
Yeah.
That's a legacy thing.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's I think
high impact.
I think
you're having leverage because now it's like each node you've created is creating more nodes.
The domino effect.
I was going to tell you, I feel like there's so many seeds that we have planted, in this industry for sure.
Yeah.
Right. And now we're like planting seeds in like the blue collar space, right?
Yeah.
Like I'm freaking consulting for construction people. There's landscaping people that are coming by next week that are doing like $6 or $8 million a year, right? That's a beautiful thing, when it starts to grow outside of the industry. But I am excited with what's going on and because you know your economics pretty well. I'm excited with what's happening in the real estate industry right now and what's coming in the next 12 to 24 months in the real estate industry. So I'm back to full-time grinding in the real estate space.
Love it.
Love it.
When are you going to sell me a deal, by the way? I've never bought a deal from you.
We got a deal in Maricopa right now that we are novating.
Okay.
Then
I'm your wrong buyer.
Ready?
Wrong buyer.
That's what I'm saying. Watch this. It's worth $380. Pool, garage, 2006 builds, right?
Yeah.
Beautiful type of rental. We got it for $300. I put it on the market for $360, and I just told the buyer yesterday, "Hey, bro, if you give me, $330 cash, because this is a cash buyer on the MLS. You give me $330 cash, you'll take it right now, right? But that's not your type of property.
Not at that number. That's still a good deal for him, and it's a good deal for you.
So let's talk about that property specifically in Maricopa.
Yeah.
Pool, we just put $2,500 into the pool. We had the owner do it. Crystal clear pool, right? Again, 2006 build, move-in ready, rental. $380 is what it's worth. What would you have picked that up at?
Max 3, and I don't love it in Maricopa right now because I can buy like property without a pool, which is a headache in Maricopa. So if there's an issue and I need to send my maintenance guys out there, it doesn't fit my good economies of scale because it's a 45-minute drive. But I can buy those houses for $275, $280 without a pool right now and still get a very similar yield for the rental. That's how well I know the market. So, I mean, I can buy even some smaller
reputation
stuff.
So when am I going to
Zach gets his reputation gives him exclusive access to deals that
better
no
deals
one
than I
else
do, and I get them directly from the homeowners.
No, that's not necessarily. That's still a good deal, right? 380 or 80 cents on the dollar. I like to buy Maricopa at 70 cents on the dollar right now. Just there's a surplus of inventory specifically there, but depending on the area, I would buy that house at 300.
Well, think about it, right? I listed it for 360. It's considered right now in today's market, that's considered affordable housing.
Sure.
Right? Especially with these rates coming down in September. What are they going to come down in September?
Quarter point. It's already built into
What do you
the
think
market.
will be?
You know what I think they're going to do?
What?
I think they're going to drop it a half point.
You do?
Yeah, because it's
I
right
think that
before the
might be-
election.
yeah,
They've been waiting until right before the election. They're going to
think it
do
might go half a
everything they
point.
can do.
I got myself down
to
at a quarter
juice up.
Vegas, 1-to-1 even odds. All right.
By the way, you were wrong.
On what?
And I appreciate and respect this man's, mind and his economical point of view and knowledge. I do. But you were wrong and I was right back in 2020.
On what?
Okay. So when COVID, can't say the word for YouTube purposes, when the vid hit, right? We gather a bunch of the top investors in the country. Remember, you, Sean Terry, me,
Ryan Pineda. We were on a Zoom call. I remember.
That's right. I said that the market was going to adjust by 15 to 20%. You said the market was going to adjust between 5 and 10%.
Okay.
Do you remember that or no?
I remember the call, and I remember on the Zoom, I was driving, and I remember where I was on the call, and everyone's speaking, and I continued to buy. I'm still bullish.
But you know what? But that was 2020. In September of 2022, we knew something was coming. So Sal and I, we sold the cars, we sold everything.
Yeah.
We knew something was coming, right? September of 2022, I have 15 flips out on the market between Cali, Nevada, and Arizona. By the time that I got done selling these flips, right?
Yeah.
We sold them 23% below original. The blended ratio or rate was 23% below the original listing of that entire portfolio.
Interesting. But that's also diversified amongst other states.
It
fairness.
is.
So if
I'm
you
just
look
trying to give him
specific to
crap, by the way.
Arizona, no,
I'm
I
trying to give him
respect it.
crap.
I like it. I was just
That's what we love
I was
this show.
hypothesizing.
I love it. Yeah.
No, I love the banter.
I love it.
At the end of the day, we talk about delayed gratification. You talked about being patient and God will show you the way and all that stuff. I'm a believer too. It's that I'm playing the long game. I'm not worried about little dips and cycles. If we buy extremely well with equity and we're patient and cash flows today, no worries. Give me that long-term capital gain. I want to own this as legacy properties. There's no reason to, fire sell or do anything. Play the long game. The market will correct. Again, I'm excited about the next. As rates are coming down, values are going to come up. Rents are still super strong. We have a housing shortage.
I do think that you're right 9 out of 10 times.
hey,
Zach-
that's a good
Zach's
number.
got the same-
I don't claim to be right all the
Yeah.
time. I learn every day too. I learn from guys like you. I learn from Robert.
Yeah.
And it's important to have these conversations and these relationships to talk about. We're on the front line seeing it. Hey, what kind of offers are you
Yeah.
getting? Where are you wholesaling this? What would I pay for in Maricopa?
Yeah.
I'm not your best
Yeah.
buyer. You should go Novation. So it's always important, I mean, for the viewers out there to collaborate and get yourself
Yeah.
a good circle of people that have different
ideas.
views and agendas and the whole thing, so we can collaborate and learn and grow together.
You know how long it took me to get out of that situation?
How long?
September 2022, the market took a turn on me.
Yeah.
I didn't get rid of my last listing till July of 2023.
Everyone got hit so hard.
But here's the big challenge.
yeah.
13 out of 15 of those houses, I wrote a check to get them off the books.
Yeah.
On the other side, what was I paying? Well, that was going on. Private money.
Yeah.
I was paying and this is how you know when everybody goes into survival when the market shifts. Ready? My private money guy used to give me what's called a balloon loan. Hey, you don't have to pay me until you sell the house. Until you list the house and sell the house.
Deferred interest.
Yeah.
Right? Ready? Hey, I'll overfund whatever the rehab is. I had a beautiful setup, right?
Yeah.
Guess what happened when it took a turn? People stopped paying him.
Yeah.
And he's like, Carlos, I hate to do this to you, but I'm gonna need you to start paying me every month. However, he did negotiate with me. He's like, you know what? I'm gonna help you. And he was so graceful during this whole situation, right? He brought me from 14 to 10%. He helped me out just for me to be able to like make sure that I'm paying my bills every month with him. So that was one of the toughest things that I've ever faced in real estate.
Yeah.
It was paying for 13 out of the 15 properties to get off the books, and then now having to pay my private money interest only payments over here on the other side. But we got through it.
That's good.
But it makes you a better investor going through that. Now you would never borrow money because you don't have to at 14%, right?
Yeah.
You probably get private relationships between 8 and 10 all day long. And that was the other difference. People are fire selling, but I'm sitting there with bank money and under lever that I'll wait this thing out. It's okay. My thing's still cash flowing.
You're a patient man.
But we have a different agenda. Or don't get yourself over levered to the point where you're tossing and turning at night, right? Like you overextended yourself potentially. When things are good, it's easy to say, oh, let's continue to buy, let's over lever. When things shift, how can you pivot and adapt in those situations?
We pivoted and we adapted.
You did. You had other businesses or cars or whatever you did. The diversification is a critical component, which probably got you out of that mess.
By the way, that's when I learned, you know how everybody's always like, oh, your average millionaire has 7 streams of income. Now I know why. Because when one income is down, the other one actually sustains it or helps it.
Yeah.
Because you're right. If it wasn't for our other businesses, we wouldn't have been able to. The real estate business would have gone pretty badly for us.
All right, guys. So we're trying a new segment out this week. If you enjoy it, if you want us to do more of it, drop a comment below. Let us know which segments you enjoy. So today we're going to be going through 3 different things that came out this week, and we'd love to just get your reaction. I want to get both your reactions. Just share our thoughts on some of the stuff that's in the news. So story number one trending on Immigrant News is Realtors file suit against Move, NAR, over fake lead scheme. So Move is the parent company of Realtor.com. The story alleges that 50% of all of the leads that are being sold on Realtor.com were fake leads, complete garbage. Not only that, but apparently they have evidence that even though they promised that the leads were exclusive, they were selling the exact same leads multiple times. So huge lawsuit.
Not surprised.
Not surprised. What your thought? PPL is becoming really big in our industry.
We're on the
Carlos,
same.
I want to get your thoughts. You probably tried all the PPL providers out there. Are you surprised by this story? What are your thoughts, and what do you think of the PPL companies in our industry?
You know, I don't know who the CEO or the founder or the owner of this
Realtor.com.
Realtor.com, right? Yeah. I think it comes down to, again, the integrity of that individual, right? It's a reflection of the integrity from the top. I say this all the time. Wholesalers out there that are doing business with cold call agencies, that are doing business with PPL agencies, I'm like, how are you going to know that these people aren't recycling these leads or sharing these leads just to meet their quota?
Yeah.
You don't know.
You don't.
You don't know. So what's the only thing that is going to either, give you a clue of like, if they are or they're not? Well, if you know who the owner is and you know that person is a person of integrity, right? Like actually having a relationship with that person.
Yeah.
Like I know you being the owner of Investorlift, I know that you're not a dirty, scheming individual. So I trust that whatever goes on through your platform, I don't have to worry about it.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
100%.
Right? That's the only way to know.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, I feel like a lot of these cold call agencies, and I actually have been a victim of, partnering up with the wrong people for a few years and then getting betrayed for over $5 million, et cetera.
Wow.
But it's because I was like, holy smokes, dude. Well, guess what? That was just the beginning. Once I started to dig deep into a lot of these agencies, whether it was a cold call agency or a PPO agency, a lot of them are doing what they got to do to make sure that the customer is happy. You get what I'm saying? That their lead production is there. So very quick example of what a cold call company would do to make sure to hit that production percentage every day, right? Is if I promise you if you have 3 agents with me and I promise you two leads per agent per day, and so now you're supposed to get 6 leads that day, but I only got you 3, right? Depending on that, and like I said, the owner of that company, whatever kind of integrity is going on in that company, I'm going to go and get 3 leads from another campaign that's operating in the same market as you, and you're done. That happens 90% of the time, by the way. So I'm not surprised by this.
I've seen this go on with the PPL providers.
Yep.
We used to push some PPL providers. We'd find a PPL provider. We'd hear about it through our clients. They say, hey, we're getting some good leads from this one. And then we'd start pushing that PPL provider. And then all of a sudden they would blow up because we start talking about them. And then 6 months later, I just hear horror stories about how horrible it is. Because I think what happens is they start blowing up and they're like, oh, I don't know how to meet the demand. So they start mixing in different lead sources or recycling leads or getting old dead.
That's right.
Yep. And it just goes to shit. And it's all over the Facebook groups. I find this story really interesting because it's all over the Facebook wholesaling groups right now.
They're selling leads, right?
He's saying, hey, these guys are recycling leads, or they're just mixing in low quality leads in with the good ones, diluting it, cutting the powder.
Yep. Cutting the powder. Wow.
Zach, what's your take?
I mean, it's pretty cut and dry. Clear. It's just a matter of time till someone's going to realize, hey, if I'm an agent, which I'm also licensed, and they sent me leads and I call these people, I said, I'm never interested in selling the house, or where'd you get my number? It's pretty black and white. It's just a matter of time. So I agree with the lawsuit, and people need to be accountable for misrepresentation. And it's pretty black and white to me.
What I'm surprised is that's from such a big company like Realtor.com. Like, how could such a big company, and the percentage is so high, the claim is this 50%. Again, this is allegedly, but it's a pretty big lawsuit. If it is true, I mean, that is really bad news for Realtor.com. They're going to get some punitive damages on that for sure.
What the hell's going on with the like on the agency side, bro? I feel like
nothing's really almost changed. I mean, you just can't market the commissions. You can't put in the multiple.
No, I get it. Right? I get it. But just take a look at the real estate agent's journey, the profession itself over the past couple years, right? You got flat fee listings, brokerless, and Baycom, and you got you got novations, and then all this stuff doesn't help.
Right.
You got the NAR. You know what I mean? Like, dude, it's not easy to be a real estate agent right now.
It's not easy, but also if you're really good and you're part of that top 10%,
That's right.
I think you're going to get even a larger lion's share because word of mouth, execution, top of mind marketing, all of that just going to continue to bring that oil to the top of the food chain. That's
that abundant mindset you have. I love it.
But it's true.
Yeah.
Okay, let's move on to the next one. We got a little video clip. So Kamala Harris, running for president. They got rid of Joe. They put her in. She hasn't really talked about her policies at all. She did her first interview last night on CNN, 18 minutes. Didn't really hear about any policies except there's 3 policies. One, no tax on tips, which obviously she's copied from the Republicans.
Trump policy.
Yeah, because he passed that. He went out to Nevada and announced it in Nevada.
Oh, she now wants to build the wall, by the way.
Not surprised.
She changed her policy, whatever the policy is, because as of this morning, this is my stuff, right? I love this stuff.
It's nice that someone's not opinionated here at all.
As of 10:41 this morning, I went to her website just to make sure, that things were doing what they got to do, right? 1041, as you can see, I put a video. It's a video. I haven't posted anywhere or nothing. I went to her website. The first thing that it asks me to do is to donate. So I'm like, well, I'm not going to donate. Let me continue to KamalaHarris.com. I click it. I'm like, oh, it's asking me to donate again. I'm like, okay, you know what? I'm going to click on where it says menu to see if there's policy there yet. I click on menu and there's still no policy.
No. There's no published policy.
That's as of 1041 this morning. She does not have a policy yet.
She's not.
What are they waiting for, dude?
They're not going to put it out.
The election is a few months away.
Right.
They're not going to put it out. The only thing they're putting out is, I think, things that are so ridiculous they'll never get passed. So that brings us to this clip. Let's watch it, and I want to get your reaction, Carlos.
We also know that as the price of housing has gone up, the size of down payments have gone up as well. Even if aspiring homeowners save for years, it often still is not enough. So in addition, while we work on the housing shortage, my administration will provide first-time home buyers with $25,000 to help with the down payment on a new home. We also know that...
All right, so giveaways, $25,000 for down payments on a home. It sounds great and all, right? That if you're an average voter and you hear that, $25,000 for a down payment, that sounds amazing. I'm going to vote for this person and get my 25 grand, right? That's what it sounds like. Mm-hmm. Is a real estate investor, what's your take on this policy? Good policy, bad policy?
I don't think it's a bad policy because I actually took advantage of when Obama was giving out an $8,000 incentive back in 2009. I took advantage of that, right? And sure thing, I got a check in the mail by the United States Treasury Department of $8,000 refunding me for my down payment, my first house that I bought back in 2009. I don't think that's a bad policy. I think you just got to dig into, first of all, where it's coming from, who's paying for it,
who's paying for those?
Because nothing's free.
Correct.
Okay. And the second thing is, excuse me, lady, but you've been in the office for 3.5 years, right?
Yeah.
We are where we are. And you've done nothing about it. If anything, okay, here we go. I pulled it up right away. The price of gasoline has increased by 46.6%. Fuel, oil, 59.1%. Natural gas, 28%. Used cars, 26%. Beef, 20%. Pork, 14%. Bacon, 15%. Freaking eggs, almost 12%. Electricity, 6.5%. So again, this has all happened under your watch.
Yeah.
Why should we, the American people, think that anything is going to change now that you're going to be the head honcho and not Joey B?
Yeah.
When you were his vice, you were his understudy. I believe that this person is groomed by the same people that Joey B was groomed by, and the same people that Obama was groomed by, and the same people that the Clintons were groomed by, and the same people that were Bushes were groomed by. They're all the same. They're the same. They're the same party. They're the same party. The party of the Kennedys is no more. The party of the Kennedys is no more. And in my opinion, in the 1960s is when the Democratic Party actually shifted to what they are today. In the 1960s, just think about it, right? 1963, JFK gets assassinated.
Yeah.
1968, RFK gets assassinated. 1960, I don't know what it was when the civil rights movement, MLK gets assassinated. It might have been 64. Oh, Malcolm X gets assassinated in the 60s also.
Yeah.
You get what I'm saying? Did you also know that in the 1960s also, this was around 63, there was a governor by the name of George Wallace who ran on the promise in Alabama that if you elect me as the governor, I will not allow the University of Alabama to racially integrate. And guess what he did? He stood on the front. He was a Democratic governor, by the way, stood on the front of the doors of that college. And JFK had to send 100 people of, I think it was the Army National Guard to go get him removed.
Yeah.
And then boom, University of Alabama was integrated by a black man and a black woman, two students. Right. So again, people need to do their research, but they don't.
Yeah.
They only see race, they see color, they see promises, and nothing ever gets fulfilled. That's what I think about this lady and her party. How do you follow
Tell
that
us
up,
how you
by the
really
way?
feel.
Tell us how you really feel.
Yeah.
Zach, what's your opinion? $25,000
Look,
down payment assistance. What's your take on it?
Like Carlos said, you got to wonder where's that money coming from and who's she going to tax to get that additional funds to help people buy. The bigger concerns, I'm all for helping first-time home buyers. I do it myself, my own properties, give them options to buy and ensure that people have opportunities to acquire homes. The big concern is if you can't afford a down payment today, how are you truly going to afford the mortgage, right? So it's also going to set people up for failure. If prices continue to rise, right? Like if you can't afford the gas, but I give you free gas, but then you can't, how are you going to afford the yacht or the car? Yeah. So is it like just a short-term Band-Aid? I don't think that's surgery. Truly, I think there's a lot of other great programs you can provide first-time home buyers for lower interest rates and other options without just feeding somebody or giving away, free money. And nothing's ever free as well. So we got to look into it further. Where's the money coming from? 25,000 is also a lot of money to do. Like I agree with the 8,000 seems a little more digestible.
They did 10,000. There's a group that tried 10,000 in California a few years back. It was all gone in 2 weeks.
There you go. So, I mean, how many people, and first of all, how many first-time home buyers have kind of been on the sidelines from, I'd like to know the stat of how many people have been restricted from acquiring. So who would this truly apply to? Right? Yeah. I mean, what are the actual numbers on? I need the research. But 25,000 seems excessive, number one. Yeah. And two, can they, even at that point, if they run the diagnostics or the data, could those people truly afford, even with that down payment, could they afford the home regardless?
Yeah. So here's my take on it. If this, let's just say you threw this in next year, 25,000 down payment assistance. Then let's say you get a couple rate drops. You already have pent up demand with the rate drops. You throw this in on top. Now all of a sudden, we already don't have enough supply to meet the demand. All this does is drive up demand. You're just going to drive more demand. What's going to happen? Prices are going to go up through the roof. That $25,000 of down payment assistance is going to increase the average price of a home by way more than $25,000. Sure. Especially if you combine it with an interest rate cut at the same time. We don't have a demand problem. We have a supply problem. They're bringing on more demand. It's going to make the problem 10 times worse. It's going to make housing way less affordable. It's going to have the like pretty much any government policy is going to have the opposite impact of its intended impact. Well, I think would be a better policy. If you look at the commercial real estate market, people haven't gone back to the offices, right? Like they're out of the offices. Then the companies started pushing them to get back into the office. But then what happened is some companies were like, you can just come in 2-3 days a week. And employees started leaving and going to those companies.
I already know where you're going.
So here's all we got to do. Warren Buffett just sold his entire Bank of America stock position yesterday. I think it was over $900 million of shares. He's been holding on to those for decades. The reason why is because Bank of America has so much commercial real estate exposure. He's scared of it. He wants out. A lot of banks, especially the small banks, have a lot of commercial real estate exposure. I think a lot of these loans are going to start going bad. A lot of guys need to get out of these commercial spaces. What you do is you take the commercial buildings, where feasible, rezone them for commercial. Rezone them for commercial. Let these guys convert them into multifamily units. Bring on more supply. This is going after the wrong side of the equation. You already got too much demand. You want to make housing more affordable. The only way to do it is bring on more supply. And where do we have a bunch of real estate supply that's not being utilized? Commercial real estate. Just convert it. Simple solution.
Are you going to run for her cabinet of housing?
Make housing affordable again.
Yeah.
There you go.
Absolutely. All right. Moving on to the next video. So the next policy that came out, again, there's only been like 3 or 4. There's been the wall, tax on tips. We've got $25,000 free for everyone that buys a house.
Who's paying tax on tips anyways?
Well, it's all credit cards now, right? It used to be all cash, but now it's all credit cards, right? And it comes right out.
Well, no, but not only that, no, tax on tips, like anytime that you pay a tip with your card, right? I mean, they don't get that until their next check. You get what I'm saying? So that one, and then when it's time to get their check, those tips get taxed.
Yeah. I was just assuming cash.
So, unrealized capital gains. I think it's absolute insanity. And guys, if you're watching this and you don't know what unrealized capital gains is, that's fine. Normally, when we're investing in anything, you don't pay taxes until you realize the profit, right? If Zack flips a house, or let's say you have a house in your portfolio, you buy it for $100,000, you hold on to it for 20 years, now it's worth $500,000. Zack pays the tax when he sells that property and he makes his $400,000 profit, okay? Unrealized gains would be if Zack's still holding that property, he bought it for $100,000, now it's worth $500,000. The government was saying, hey, Zack has a $400,000 unrealized gain on this property. Let's go force him to pay tax on that. Now all of a sudden, Zack's having to liquidate a bunch of his portfolio to just cover the taxes. At Investorlift, our valuation is pretty high. If we had unrealized gain tax, I would have to sell the company just to pay the tax bill. Right. I don't have cash to go pay unrealized gains on our share prices. So we'll play a quick video. This is Kevin O'Leary reacting to it. We'll play that real quick, and I want to get your take, Carlos.
Music. Kevin, let's talk about her tax policy. The Wall Street Journal has done their analysis. This is what they report back. They say ultimately, big picture here is that under her plan, taxes would go up for high-income households across the board. Most Americans' taxes would remain unchanged or possibly lower, and a whole lot of lower-income parents would get some new breaks. Does that match your read on it, and what do you think?
I'm worried about something far more sinister. The idea to raise capital gains tax to make America uncompetitive.
So that was the second part.
Look what he's wearing. That's amazing. The sandals. Is that real?
He does this. He does this just on his station.
That's amazing.
So he's always wearing something ridiculous on the line. Just a troll. Oh, you just keep it rolling.
Your sovereign wealth, you want to put $100 billion to work in infrastructure. You care about capital gains tax. You care about the corporate tax rate. Remember, 82% of jobs in America are created by private companies that are corporations. That's who America works with and for, and how we pay for our society. Why do you want to punish them for success? And so at the end of the day, when you make yourself so uncompetitive in the plethora of economies that compete with us and all of a sudden say corporate tax rates are the highest now, we're in the bottom quartile of competition, it'll be like what happened when we had 28% plus corporate taxes when companies started going to Ireland. We've already tried this. It doesn't work. And I want to hear her answer that question. I really, really want to hear how she feels about the #1 economy. Remember, she's the steward of the #1 economy on earth. This is a really, really, really bad idea. Incredibly bad policy.
Kevin, I only got a couple seconds left, but can you lay out for average American voters who may not be may not have a whole lot of investments, may not be earning over $1 million a year, who are the folks who are going to get hit hardest with the new Harris plan, why they should care about the capital gains tax?
Because 62% of jobs in America are where they work, companies between 5 and 500 employees. You want to do everything in your tax plan to support American entrepreneurship. That's what made this economy over 200 years ago. That's what keeps it the #1 destination for capital around the world. We do not want to punish American entrepreneurs. The #1 export of America is not a product or a service. It's the American dream. That's the #1 export. Don't mess with the American dream. There's a reason people go through barbed wire to try and get in here. We don't want to set a policy up where they're trying to get out of America.
Everyone has been.
All right, Carlos. Love that. If people go through barbed wire to get here, you probably relate to that. Don't mess with the American dream. What are your thoughts on these new policy proposals? How do you think it's going to impact real estate?
I came here chasing the American dream. I am now living it. However, I don't know if her tax policy is on household incomes of $100 million or more. $100 million or more, right? I have
not income net worth, I believe.
Okay, so if that's the case, if that is the case, right? If it's $1 million or more, we're in huge trouble.
Yeah.
If there's not a lot of people's net worth or income that is over $100 million. Nonetheless, he's right. It's going to force people, it's going to drive people out of this country. and they're going to put all those their resources and their organizations to work somewhere else.
For sure.
So that there's no way this is a win-win. It's a really bad policy. It's a bad policy, and it's not good for America.
Yeah.
That's my opinion.
One of the interesting things about the capital gains rate is every time they've lowered it, they've actually made more money because they've created more incentive for people to start investing in America. So every single time they've decreased it, the government has brought in more cash. Every time they've increased it, they've brought in less revenue.
Well, think about it too. They're hedging the rates in the future. So if they lowering the rate and people were on the sidelines to dispose of an asset or to disposition, they're more likely to sell to them. They're not getting any money until something is realized, like we spoke about. So people can then realize that if the rates were lower, which would then spur more income to the government because it's a lower rate.
The most radical thing, though, is the unrealized gains.
Oh, that would
What
be,
are your thoughts on that?
Oh, my. I might as well just file bankruptcy tomorrow. That's crazy. Why would I go out and buy anything? That's so dumb. But then here's the question. Who's going to determine the actual value? Okay, so you buy it's the same thing for an equity. Your stock goes up 10%, all of a sudden you're paying 25% of that immediately year after year. It doesn't make sense. And who's to determine the actual valuation? It's a cluster. It would literally bankrupt a lot of people.
That's not going to go through.
Okay, it sounds crazy. It sounds crazy, but I haven't verified this yet. But we'll fact check this. I heard yesterday, I think it was Charlie Kirk actually that said this, that unrealized gains was passed in Canada, and they already have it in Europe in some countries.
It's insane.
Can you imagine?
But you know what?
Would you have your portfolio right now if you had to pay unrealized gains?
I would sell everything.
You wouldn't even there would be no point.
It doesn't make any sense, right? I'm going to borrow, I'm going to raise private money to pay taxes at a certain point. It's insane.
Absolute insanity.
Yeah. These people are sick. Taxes for
tell me how you really feel.
Taxes for thee, but not for me, right? The reason I say that is because if you take a look at, and this is what I have a huge problem with what's going on in politics. A lot of, for the most part, there's a lot of Republican politics that already made money at some point. They were making millions even before they got into government, right? Or politics, right? J.D. Vance, went to Yale, was an entrepreneur, et cetera. Vivek, and they come Trump, right? Yeah. They all had their businesses, right? These people, they're disgusting. Like, what's Obama's net worth right now? $90 million, right? What's Michelle's that's Barack Hussein Obama. What's Michelle Obama's net worth right now? $70 million. How the hell?
Where'd the money come from?
Do you gain, right? Do you gain or acquire a net worth combined of almost $200 million as a civil servant? That's what I have a problem with. You want to know how many jobs Obama had before he got into politics? 0. He was a public organizer, a community organizer in Chicago. That's my problem with a lot of these people. They're disgusting, they're hypocritical, and they're sick.
Yeah, a lot of people.
Tell us how you really feel, Carlos.
By the way, if you're Republican, Democrat, doesn't matter. We love you all. My whole thing is may the best idea win. And what you should never do, is fall into identity politics and attack people for their political views. I'm the type of person where no matter what someone's political views, if someone has some radical idea, I will never say you're crazy. I'll say, why do you think that? Can you please explain to me why you think that? And then what you do is you just keep on pulling back layers of the onion, and all of a sudden they're like, oh, okay. Yeah, I guess that might be a bad idea. The best ideas should win. America used to be pure meritocracy. I think the problem is we're starting to shift away from that, right? We're starting to shift away from meritocracy. And the only alternative to meritocracy is oligarchy. And we're starting to fall into that, right?
Have you seen the comments on my Facebook or Instagram? I had a guy named JT Benz. I'm supposed to be doing what's called a comment clapback section very soon. I'm going to clap back. Yeah. Right? It's a comment clapback. This dude named JT Benz, this is a black man in Atlanta, Georgia, called my wife the B word on Facebook because he disagrees with our ideology. Yeah. I had somebody in Seattle try to put a curse on us. They remember when I posted that on Instagram and Facebook? You know what I mean? Like, it's it's pretty disgusting. It is disgusting. It's very hypocritical because you're right. I don't hate anybody for their freedom of speech, their creed, their ideology. I don't hate anybody. Hey, love you, respect you. I'll have a debate with you. You know, I express myself. You should express yourself too. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They're the ones that get hateful very quickly.
That's true.
They get very hateful very quickly. They do.
Yeah.
Go look at my comments.
What I loved about last week in Arizona is for the first time we saw the Democrats and the Republicans coming to bear. You had Kennedy, who was Democrat.
He's
royalty.
American royalty. American
Democrat
royalty,
Party royalty getting together with the Republicans. And I think that's a good sign for the country. It's a good sign that, you know, we're getting some unity. Social media, I think, has just started dividing people because you end up in an echo chamber. And hopefully things will turn around and the best ideas will start winning again.
Yeah, I don't have anything against Democrats, Republicans, independents, you know, but I will say that if you are a Democratic male, Planned Parenthood was giving out free vasectomies at the DNC. You're more than welcome to take advantage of that.
Josh is definitely going to clip that one for short.
Crazy. Let's get into the Jenga. And is there any other
real
stuff?
estate Jenga. Yeah. Okay, so what you gotta do, Carlos, first of all, pull a block, any block, and what you got to do is answer whatever questions on the block. And then we have a special blank block for you where we want you to leave a question for a future guest.
You got a blank one.
If you had the attention of the whole world for 5 minutes, what would you say?
Good question.
I would say what the great Jackie Moon once said. Everybody love everybody. That's what I would say.
Keep it simple. Everyone love everybody.
Everybody love everybody.
Who wrote that question?
I think that was one of the ones we seeded the deck.
Got
was
it,
one
okay.
OG, so that would be one of mine.
I like it.
All right, so Carlos, we got a block here for you, and we got a Sharpie marker. Leave a question, whatever question you want, for a future podcast guest.
What are some things more important than money?
Love it. Awesome.
Easy answer for me.
What's your answer to that?
I mean, health, family, right? Your relationship with your creator, integrity. You know, there's a lot. I mean, there's countless memories, experiences. There's a lot of things more important than money.
Love it.
Money helps all of it, right? But at the end of the day, it's when you're on your deathbed, you're not going to be wishing that you had worked more. You're going to be wishing that you spent more time with your loved ones. That's my answer.
All right, Carlos, thank you for dropping so much game here. Did we set a new record? Carlos, I know it was going to be good having you on here. Zach, thanks for co-hosting.
Yes, sir.
Guys, if you got value from this, make sure to give our guy Zachary Keeps a happy birthday down in the comments below. If you found value from Carlos, everything he shared here with us, give him some love in the comments below. If you have questions, drop them in the comments. We do respond to them all ourselves. Carlos, maybe we can get you in the comments too if people have questions.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. So guys, thank you so much.
And then comment on these policies. What are your thoughts on some of these policies as well?
Absolutely.
How do you see that impacting your business and the economy in the short and long term? We'd love to see your perspective as well.
And no matter what your political affiliation is, doesn't matter as long as you go out and vote. Exercise your right as an American. Go out and vote. That's what makes this country great. So thank you so much, guys, for joining us this episode. We'll see you next week.